All right. Okay, so welcome, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever the time is in your location. My name is Tammy Hospital, and I have Frank with me. Welcome once more to Chilli Talks. Okay, Frank, how have you been?
Man, it's been amazing. It's been interesting. And I don't know, Trump is tweeting or through socialing something over the weekend, and markets go one side to the other, whatever. So, Tommy, I have no clue what to say, but it's like, hey, he says, like, okay, let's stop the war. Boom. Oil down, stocks up. What do you make of this situation?
Oh, like I was looking earlier before we started the podcast, right? We've just come off about 13 days of sustained tensions, market pricing in supply risk, traders staying cautious, and then suddenly 2 days of pause, right?
Yeah.
And now we got officials meeting with Oman to try and stabilize the shipping routes, like going through the Strait of Hormuz, right? And almost immediately you can see the oil prices starts jumping lower. Like Brent crude was somewhere around 96 over the weekend.
Oh.
Currently, if let me look at my chart again, because I was looking at it not so long ago. It's currently trading around 85, right? So you could see the immediate effect. Now, the big question I have is, was the rally initially purely out of fear, right? And if the tension stays calm, how much downside do you think we could actually see?
Phew, good question. Potentially quite a bit. However, what I'm observing at the moment, Tommy, is we are kind of really bouncing off this 50 moving average, which traditionally is one of the important zones I'll usually check. I mean, if the story unfolds to the positive, the market could drop. What I think, and that's my understanding, we had last time the attack, the Americans, Israelis, and the market shot to the upside towards 125. 120 US dollars
125, yeah.
and came down again. And now we have this secondary round of attack, which took a bit longer maybe, but the market shot up, but not that high. So I think there's certain
Not that high.
fatigue of this, like, okay, the war's going on, Ukraine well forgotten. And I think now the market might really move back to the downside in a traditional manner, basically, because it's like, it's known, right? There's no big news. We saw oil prices rising. Okay, we saw that story unfolding. But what's the biggest news now? They keep on attacking again. But I think from a candlestick point of view, end of the month flows, the market's retracing from the recent highs in July, and maybe in August also the market will kind of drop again. I would say, yeah.
Well, okay. So the other question I have: do you think the central bank now have more room to stay dovish, given this circumstance?
That's a good one. I mean, like Christine Lagarde didn't give us any forward guidance last week. Kevin Walsh said, "Look, we'll look from meeting to meeting." They could. I don't think they're gonna kind of prepare markets to hike in a way. I might say they could stay with a bit of a hawkish hold or something. That they don't kind of do much. That's the expectation. However, if we're looking at the dollar or the dollar index, we see the dollar index has weakened actually early on this week so far.
And I'm like that's another question I have. Dollar is weakening, stocks pushing higher.
Yeah.
Is that normal to you? Is that normal?
Well, it makes sense in a way, right? So because the dollar has acted as a safe haven in a way as well, and now we see that this safe haven status is maybe not, it's a bit obsolete, we could say. And from a charting point of view, again, the dollar index based on the weekly chart went all the way a couple of times on this resistance or towards this resistance area, but it's retracing at the moment. The bullish trend for the dollar is intact. That tells me if this technical resistance area breaks, Tommy, I would guess the dollar index rises and the story marches higher again. But that could also, or say vice versa, if we get any hawkish statements from Kevin Walsh in terms of fighting inflation, because that's his number one priority at the moment, he might push the dollar higher by saying, look, guys, we remain on hold and the outlook is fragile because oil price has been rising again, energy price has been rising again, inflation not under control yet. So, yes, let me think. He will likely kind of stay with this rather hawkish approach in markets, yeah.
Okay, so we're just going to shift gears a little bit. Futures are already pointing higher. Sentiment looks strong, right? And traders seem willing to take on more risk early on, right? So Don't forget as well, we have the Mag 7. This week, we have about 4 of the Magnificent 7. They are going to give us their earnings report. It's earnings season anyway, right? The likes of Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and Meta as well. Also, the Fed decision is just by the corner. In 2 days' time, Wednesday, I think 7 p.m. Eastern time, no, 2 p.m. Eastern time, right?
Yeah.
The Fed will decide whether they are going to hold, whether they are going to hike, whether they are going to cut. So the key thing to watch, right, is this momentum, because I don't think we're seeing the full story, right? We've seen this before where we start the week off like strong, and then later the equities market fall off the bench, right? So the key thing to watch is this real momentum building or just early optimism that could fade. What do you think? Because I'm looking at the NASDAQ. If you notice, the NASDAQ has been in what looks like a consolidation, as well as the S&P, but that consolidation is moving towards the bearish side. And I'm taking a look at my chart while I'm speaking. We currently trade around 28,500, right? Do you think we could see positive in the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, or do you think this early momentum could fade anytime from now?
So what we've, from a technical point of view, what we've often seen, what goes up on Monday is fading towards the end of the week and vice versa. The difference at the moment, Tommy, we see is the S&P, talking relative strength, is slightly higher as compared to the NASDAQ. The S&P is trading, and guys, focus or have a look at the daily chart and mark your indicator, put the 50 moving average. So the S&P is trading above the 50 moving average, slightly higher. The NASDAQ is relatively below this 50 moving average. And as you mentioned, that's the next upcoming resistance area. So, and long story short, Mag 7, we have these tech companies, they went through the roof. Can they go higher? Yeah. Momentum, basically the last, say, 2 years was basically buy something which is rising because it's likely going to rise further. And I just this morning from a German guy, I read an article about it. Trade momentum or not, and the currently or not might be the momentum might now actually fade, and then the same momentum might kind of move to the downside. So what I see, tech companies, Nvidia and the like, moved way to the upside, and now they might not correct, they might actually kind of extrapolate and correct even further, because we see the rotation, and the rotation trade is in full swing. We see more like the media. We have Procter & Gamble giving us data. We have Visa giving us data, earnings this week, if I'm not wrong, or MasterCard was it. But we have a couple of these, Boeing as well, a couple of the important companies as well. And I think the momentum is fading away from tech, as I said. So like, let's move more towards the S&P. The German DAX has been rising basically as well, right? So blue chip companies are more in demand, as the NASDAQ-based and the tech companies, they have been rising tremendously already as well. Now, one thing caught my attention, Tommy, as well, and this Chinese chip company, I mean, they were soaring 400-something%.
My God, 500%.
Yeah.
Like, it's just... It has just been making the rounds earlier on. That brings that was where I was going to head to anyway.
Yeah.
Right. I was trying to look at some technicals on the S&P 500, but since we are here, I guess that's where we're going to be at. Basically, so this company called CXMT, they just basically came to school literally last weekend, if I'm not mistaken, and already they're IPOing and already making global moves like 500%. That's like the second highest in Chinese IPO, right? So we have them here, and we're seeing the stock surge over 500% right off the gate. Now, my question about this is just the way we saw SpaceX, where they came off, the IPO was really good, and after we just saw them, they started tanking. Do you also think, because this is of course in the semiconductor space, right? Is this the start of something big in China's semiconductor space, or just a short-term IPO hype? What do you think?
Could be another market rally, medium term as well. Well, to me, the Chinese, and I focused quite a bit with my portfolios to the the stock market, especially to the Chinese market as well. The Hang Seng Tech, HSTE, one of the ETFs I'm in, has been kind of falling recently, and I think we see potentially that with this, the China tech markets or the China tech market might actually increase. So I have, in a way, positive hopes because, America's playing the blame game. No, we don't give chips. China should not have that for the sake of kind of not being able to build whatever rockets, weapons, atomic warhead, whatever. It's not an arms race. It's a race of world dominance and world power. Eventually about the US dollar and the petrodollar. But I think China is just playing secretly something behind the scenes because they have so many people. The mentality is totally different, at least from when I went to China, and it's been a couple of times living in Asia, that everyone wants to do something, wants to be better because there are so many people there.
Yeah.
You have to kind of compete with one another, right?
Yeah, you have to compete, really, yeah.
And that's why I have positive hopes. It might be just a one-day thing. I'm not sure where Elon Musk's story has kind of gone over the recent few days, to be honest. But I have some positive hopes because I think China is obviously lagging behind, but with their will and their tremendous idea, I think over the next decade we see China marching forward nicely without using any weapon.
So I've been thinking about this. Does this tell us that investors' appetite outside of the US for tech is actually increasing? Does this give us signals as to where investors' appetite really lies right now? Because if we see China do this, of course, they are one of the leaders that could play this game. It means some other people may start getting interested in all this. We may see more companies rise from different parts of the world and do crazy stuff. So where do you think investors' appetite rest?
Yeah, it's a bit tough to say because markets are mostly near their all-time highs, and the question is, can they rise further? For sure, but is there potentially time for a correction? I have the feeling that there's a bit of a question in the markets. Hey, will we see another bull run? Because we have the midterm election year in the US. In the past, historically, they have been not negative, rather positive, but quite volatile. And we really haven't seen that volatility yet. I mean, we got these new tariffs, the 10 to 12.5% tariffs initiated by Trump. And I would say there might be room for correction in all markets. Maybe not a huge bearish move, but like something towards the recent resistance areas which had been broken, maybe down towards these areas. In other words, in the S&P 500, maybe we see the 7,000, 6,800 level to be tested again, right? But yes, the tech in the US had kind of moved, as I said earlier on, and the profit had been made, and I think traders look for, okay, what's the next one we can invest in? What's the next company we can trade? Because ChatGPT, Gemini, they all got also some Asian, Chinese competition as well recently. So, there might be some just saturation in the markets and then the market moves on. But I see still, as I said, the Boeings, the Visa, the MasterCard, the more blue chip companies, they have room for upside. And I think that's where we see the big rotation in markets away from tech, from Western tech at least.
I'm going to put you on the spot immediately. The Fed decision is on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I reckon they will hold. What do you think? I reckon they will hold. I'm thinking they would hold. Of course, CPI data the other time was a little bit, would I say modest? But I reckon they will still hold. What do you think? What's your take?
I think the same. Yes, CPI came down a slight bit, right? But still, it's seemingly not enough for Kevin Walsh because he straight at his first meeting pointed out, guys, we're gonna fight inflation. That's the number one story.
That's the number one,
He could say as well, look, let's forget inflation. Let's just kind of look at the labor market because we had really mixed data from the labor market. Not overly bad, but if you look behind the scenes, maybe not perfect, right? So because inflation and the prices in the US, especially everything rising tremendously. I read the article kind of over the past few say 2 decades basically. But if you're looking on to your own area, right? I mean, for me, health insurance, went through the roof. You cannot say there's no inflation, but it's quite high. And I think he wants to kind of tame inflation because in the end, prices seemingly being kind of decided at the pump, especially in the US, with the gallons moving up to the upside. Wow. Yeah.
Well. It's been an interesting one. If you're just coming, this is our podcast. It's called Chilli Talks. Please make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, And if you want more, please feel free to visit NAGA.com. It was an awesome chat, Frank. I don't know if you have anything to say to the guys before we wrap this up.
Well, I mean, a mixed week, right? So I don't buy the early rises in the market. I don't buy this S&P higher, Nasdaq higher. I see more the rotation trade, and with the fight of inflation, you mentioned a hawkish or a hold. I would say a rather hawkish hold of Kevin Walsh. And if he remains at these levels, I think the dollar has room to the upside. With the dollar rising, we would see maybe metals lower. We would maybe see oil continuing lower. But also stocks might kind of face a burden and likely correct. So, Tommy, I think we should be careful. FOMC around the corner. Friday, Bank of Japan. Also interesting, right? And the Bank of England as well. So we have a ton of central bank decisions to navigate through, like the Strait of Hormuz.
The Strait of Hormuz. What mentioning? All right, guys. Very interesting one right here. It's always awesome to talk to you, Frank. And guys, please, like I said, feel free to visit naga.com. And we'll always be here every week to give you something about the market. All right, guys, until we come your way next time, I remain Frank, and with me is oh my God, I just said I remain Frank. I remain Tommy Hotspot, and with me is Frank. Until we come your way next time, I want to wish you good luck and good trading. Take care.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye-bye.